We'll solve the rational equation 15 over x minus 15 over x minus 2 equals negative 2. Now the first thing that I want to do in solving this equation is to multiply on both sides by something that eliminates the denominators. And what I'll multiply by is the least common multiple of the denominators. I have a denominator of x and I have a denominator of x minus 2. So the least common multiple is going to be just the product of those two, x times the quantity x minus 2. Now let's multiply both sides of the equation by the least common multiple of the denominators. I'll have x times x minus 2 times the whole left-hand side, which is 15 over x minus 15 over x minus 2. And that's equal to, doing the same multiplication on the right, x times x minus 2 times negative 2. Now on the left-hand side, removing parentheses, I have x times x minus 2 times 15 over x minus x times x minus 2 times this term, x times x minus 2 times 15 over x minus 2. And I'm going to rewrite this, multiplying the negative 2 and the x, as negative 2x times x minus 2. Now when I do this first multiplication, the x's cancel, so I'd have 15 times x minus 2 left. When I do this one, I can think of canceling the x minus 2, so I'm going to have minus 15x, and that's equal to minus 2x times x minus 2. Now let's continue on a new page so we have a little more space to work. This is the last step that we had on the previous page. I'm going to carry out these two multiplications that remain. 15 times the quantity x minus 2 is 15x minus 30, and then I have this minus 15x. Negative 2x times x gives me negative 2 times x squared, and the second multiplication gives me plus 4x. Now, the next thing I'll do is to collect like terms on the left-hand sides. 15x minus 15x is 0, so I just have negative 30 on the left-hand side. And on the right-hand side, I have negative 2x squared plus 4x. Now, I can see that I have a quadratic equation here. I have an x squared term in the equation. So I want to write this with 0 on one side of the equation. And to do that, I'm going to add 2x squared and subtract 4x on both sides. And the reason that I'm doing that is so that my x squared term has a positive coefficient. We just usually like to work with quadratic equations in that form. When I do those subtractions and additions, I get on the left-hand side 2x squared minus 4x minus 30. And that's equal to 0, though this is supposed to be 2x squared. We'll just put a plus sign there. Now, I see that I can factor 2 out of the left-hand side. So I can write this as 2 times x squared minus 2x minus 15. And that's equal to 0. And if I divide both sides by 2, then I'm left with x squared minus 2x minus 15 equals 0. And now we can factor the left-hand side. It factors as x minus 5 times x plus 3. And that's equal to 0. Now we're ready to use the principle of zero products to solve this. This is the factored form that we had. And the principle of zero products tells us that x minus 5 is equal to 0 or x plus 3 is equal to 0. If I add 5 on both sides here, I get x equals 5. And here, subtracting 3 on both sides, I get x equals negative 3. And if we would go back to the original equation and check each of these numbers, we would find that they both check. So we say the solutions are 5 and negative 3.